Hi, and welcome back to our next presentation. My name is Jacob Lemke, Healthcare Equity Research Analyst here at ABG. Our next company presenting is animal horse vaccine company Intervacc. And with us today, I have their CEO, Andreas Andersson. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for listening in. So let's get right to it. So Intervacc, we are developing modern vaccines for animals, and we're using a technology based on recombinant fusion proteins, and we are in the very lead in this technology field. Our lead product, Strangvac, a vaccine for horses against the equine disease strangles, is approved by EMA now in August, and by VMD for the UK in September. And we are just about to launch this vaccine, and we are on track to start sales now in March. So it's really exciting time for us with a big changes for the company. We are addressing a global market, and the animal health market has shown great resilience and growth throughout the pandemic, and is foreseen to keep growing. So it's a very good space to be a part of. We are developing those vaccines in collaborations with two world-leading universities here in Sweden, the Karolinska Institute, KI, in Stockholm, and SLU in Uppsala. And we have a pipeline of vaccines based on the same technology and focusing on similar types of pathogens. But now our first vaccine is ready to launch. We're a Swedish company, and we're listed on the First North. So let's start with Strangvac. So this vaccine against the equine disease strangles that has been approved by EMA for Europe and by VMD for the UK market. It has an excellent safety profile based on that it has no live agent. It has an intramuscular administration, which is the way that veterinarians prefer to give vaccines to horses by. It has shown excellent protection with up to 94% efficacy, and that is after the third booster dose shown in public studies. We are addressing a global market with this vaccine, and we will look closer into that. But in discussions with key opinion leaders, several times it has come up that this is a game changer in the fight against strangles. And what you need in order to reach a good use and good spread on a global market is a vaccine that is safe, protective, and easy to use. And Strangvac has those features. And that's why we are confident that we will be dominating the vaccine space against equine strangles. So this disease, strangles, what is it? It is one of the most, if not the most, frequently diagnosed infectious disease in equine. And there are some 60 million horses in the world, so this is a large global market. It's highly contagious, and it's a nasty disease that can be lethal, and horses can be infected for a long time. And it has big consequences for the horse and for the horse owners. Outbreaks are very costly to control, and you have to quarantine the horse and often the whole stable for weeks or months. So this is a dreaded disease that horse owners and veterinarians are very eager to prevent. Strangles are quite common. If you compare in Sweden, where it's very transparent with strangles, and we have good data, if you compare this to equine influenza, which is one of the diseases that you vaccinate most against, we only have a handful of outbreaks per year of equine influenza because you vaccinate. Whereas for strangles, we have between 40 and 120 outbreaks per year. So 10 to 20 times as many outbreaks of strangles in comparison to equine influenza here in Sweden. And we think this is representative of the frequency of of equine strangles around the world. And our ambition and our target is to get the number of outbreaks of equine strangles down to similar levels of equine influenza. But in order for that to happen, we need to work together with other disease preventing measures, and including vaccination. And we believe that is possible. So strangles is a global disease, a global problem, and Strangvac addresses a global market. And when you address a market with vaccines, you don't only target horses that are already sick, you target healthy horses, all horses. And in the global market, there are around 60 million horses, and about 1/3 of those are in what we call our primary markets, so around 20 million horses. And that is North America, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Japan. And so those are the markets that we are targeting first. And we have now approval in Europe, we have approval in the UK, and we have just submitted the first application to the US. So a large global market, and we will also then apply for approval outside of those primary markets in good time. In those primary markets, about 30 to 70% of the horses are vaccinated today against something else, or medicated and see a vet regularly. So that is also our target, to reach those kind of levels. And good to remember is in vaccination, and with a vaccine like Strangvac, once a horse enters a vaccination program, it revaccinates it regularly. So what we foresee is that a horse will take at least 2 doses when it enters the vaccination program. We have indications that many will choose to take a booster 3 months after the first 2 doses, and then revaccinate once or twice per year. So that is our expectation, and we will and the indications we get from our discussion with key opinion leaders. So here is the first box here of Strangvac ready to start to be sold to sell. And this is one is for the Swedish and the Danish and the Finnish market. We are on track to start selling now in March, and in the Nordic countries we will sell this vaccine ourselves with our distribution company Nordvac, who's a daughter company of us. For the rest of Europe, we're using a distribution partner, Detta Pharmaceutical, an excellent partner, and we will look closer at Detta. And with this model, we believe that we have a very scalable model. So going global using large global partners that with a distribution partner model. We had from the beginning expected to or planned to launch the vaccine before the end of the year. So this was slightly delayed. And the reasons for this is that we were approved as a MUMS project. Equine is considered a minor species in comparison to some other larger species like pigs and poultry. And with that, we had some post-approval commitments. But a very important one of those were the extension of shelf life for the antigens. And today we had an approval from EMA that prolonged this shelf life to 28 months, which was an essential part in order to release those batches. So that's very good news, and we are on track to start selling here in March. So if we're looking at how to reach the market, so our distribution partner for Europe is Detta Pharmaceutical. They have it's the 8th largest animal health company within pharmaceuticals globally. They are even stronger within equine, where they have, according to our numbers, they're number 4 for equine in Europe. They had an excellent growth within equine. So here between 2020 to 2021, they had over 25% in organic growth just in the European equine segment. So this is a partner that we have chosen wisely, and we're very happy with the collaboration so far, and we expect to do great things together. We have a 5-year distribution contract with Detta, and our strategy is that this is how we will build our global sales reach, to have pure distribution partner agreements that gives us leverage in negotiating and growing globally. This is also why we think it's important that we keep our home market to ourselves, so we have our own knowledge and contact with the end users, so we can support our distribution partners globally. So what the phase we have now been in since the approval is that we have worked closely with key opinion leaders and informing them about Strangvac and Strangles. And we have great internal resources to do this. Our Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Andrew Waller, is a renowned and respected scientist within this field. So this dialogue with those key opinion leaders across Europe has been going very well, and the Strangvac is well received, and there's a lot of hope on what this vaccine can do. So those key opinion in turn have now started to present Strangvac for their local markets. And once we have launched the vaccine, we will also help in doing that to target more directly the veterinarians. Those are our sales channels. So for the horse owners, then we are doing more awareness campaigns, not talking about the vaccine directly. The vaccine information goes to the veterinarians. And here's an example of an awareness campaign, Strangles Awareness Week, that we participated in last year, and it reached over 2 million people in 2021, and continues to spread to more countries. And we're actively participating in spreading this campaign. So we have also formally started the approval process for the US. So we here in February we handed in the first part of the dossier or the application to the CVB. So for animal health vaccines in the US, you submit to CVB, the Center for Veterinary Biologics, is part of the office, which is done under the USDA, the Department of Agriculture. And to do this, we have engaged very experienced local experts that has previously worked at CVB. So we have the best type of support, and we can use much of the data and information we had in the dossier that we submitted to EMA and VMD for our application in the US. But the process is a little bit more interactive. So you submit an initial application, and then you work out a plan together with CVB. So it's a little bit too early to say exactly what the schedule will be for this approval process, but we are confident that we will get approval also for the US and the Canadian market. So what we do now is we have applied for the US market, but they are coordinated or aligned with the Canadian process. So you could, with very little extra resources, also use this application for the Canadian market. We have also applied for supplementary protection certificates here in larger European markets. This is a way to extend the exclusivity of the protection, and there is a similar system in place in the US. And we have every reason to believe that this will be accepted. We have a patent up until 2031, but with this SPC, it will be. We expect this to be extended to 2036. Now, as the world looks today, there are no copies, so to say, of vaccines. They are for traditional, more chemical pharmaceuticals. There are a lot of generics, and the generics are encouraged. in order to drive down prices after the patent has expired. This is more unusual for biologicals, so there is something called biosimilars. And we have not found a single examples of this, that this has been done for vaccines, because it's very complicated, too complicated to make a copy. So what we expect is that once we have dominated this segment for equine strangles, we really don't expect any copies or serious competition even after the patent expires. But we have still done this because, you know, the 10 years from now, it's difficult to know where the technology is. So this is also very good news. As I said, we have other projects in the pipeline. So most advanced of those projects is a vaccine project for pigs. It's against a pathogen called Streptococcus suis. It's a very serious disease that causes sepsis in young piglets. So after they have stopped weaning or from the mother from the sow. So that's when they are mostly at risk. And this project is also doing progressing according to plan and doing good progress. So what we do is that we use the same technology and we stick to the similar type of pathogens with the same research teams, and that gives us great chances of success also in those projects. In this, for this potential vaccine, we also had a patent approved here in November 2021 in the US, and that's a good step forward for us to prepare for that vaccine as well. For the mastitis project, we it's a similar pathogen again, same technology, and we're also progressing according to plan and doing good progress in that vaccine project. So I think that's a positive message from our pipeline projects. Briefly, the animal health as such is showing good growth. We have the market is valued around $40 billion, and in the core center, this is vaccines. It has shown 4 to 7% growth. Vaccines have been growing faster than that. It's often mentioned around 10%, and it's driven by increased demand for animal protein. We're spending more money on our pets, and vaccines in particular is also driven by that there's a big trend of we have to use less antibiotics, and there's a lot of new regulations on that. And with less antibiotics, the infection pressure increases, and the need for vaccine increases. If you look at this and animal, there's a lot of initiatives from governments around One Health and zoonotic diseases. So we are in a very good sphere to get incentives, and both our main pipeline projects here are partly funded by the government. The EU has a target to reduce antibiotics with 50% to 2030, and I think that's a good driver for this market. So if I'm going to sum up here, we have really good momentum. Strangvac has been granted the market authorization in the EU and also in the UK. We're preparing for a commercial launch, and we are on track to start sales here in March. We have submitted the first part of our application for Strangvac in the US. We are doing good projects in our pipeline projects, and we also have a very good cash position with over 100 million Swedish crowns and a very manageable cash burn. So with that, I'll leave over to you for some questions.
Okay, thanks for the presentation. Maybe if we start with the press release you sent out earlier today, where you said that you have gotten an approval for an extended shelf life of your antigens. Maybe you could just sort of go into that and say what it means for you.
Yes. Right. So just before this presentation, we sent out the press release that EMA has today approved an extension of the shelf life for our antigens. They have approved 28-month shelf life now, and that was an essential part for us to be able to release the doses and to start sales. So what this is that when we produce vaccines, in the first step, we grow those we produce those antigens, those molecules. And in that process, we produce antigens that reach for several million of doses. And in the next step then, we make the vaccines in the vials. So we use the antigens together with adjuvants and salt buffer and put those in vials and label them, and that is a vaccine. So the 28th month is for the antigens in the manufacturing before we put it in the vials. Once you have put it in the vials, you get another new 24 months. So this is great for us. In the long term, it gives us bigger flexibility and able to produce more cost efficient. And it was important for us now in order to release those first batches. So very good news.
Okay. And as you said, now, I mean, you are on track to starting selling the product in March.
Yep.
But when will Decra get out and start sell the product?
Right. So Decra is so as we are extremely eager to start. So we are all pushing as hard as possible to start as soon as possible. I think it's going to be tough for Decra to start selling in March. It's already now. We're already in March, so as soon as possible after that. But and I think it's most likely not all market at once, but more one market at a time. But within the next few months. So as soon as possible, shortly following, Decra will also launch in Europe, and it's more up to us, so we can supply the vaccine to them. They are prepared and very eager to start.
And as you said, now, I mean, you're out and speaking to key opinion leaders and so on. Have you gotten any feedback on the dosing or the sort of booster regimen?
Yeah. So basically, from the key opinion leaders, the feedback we got from them is that they will all start with 2 doses, and then for most key opinion leaders would recommend to take a booster vaccine 3 months after those primary 2 doses, and then revaccinate every 6 months or once per year, a little bit depending on risk situation from the horse and how much you're ready to spend on your horse. So this is what the key opinion leader tells us, and in the end, it will be the horse owner and the local veterinarian that will design how they will use the vaccine for that particular horse.
Okay, and I mean, you mentioned that you have submitted for the US market now. Can you just sort of briefly update us on the sort of timeline here?
Right. So the next step now is that they will assign handläggare, so the person that will be in charge for our project, and then we will discuss the plan together with them, and that will now take place in the next couple of weeks, couple of months, and once we have agreed with them on what will be needed, then we can be more public about that. So there are different options here. Today we don't know if local studies will be required and to what extent. What we have seen is that we just published a study quite recently where we have shown that the strain Streptococcus equi is quite homogeneous over the world, and that our vaccine is very likely to protect against all known strains. So that kind of supports our case when we now file for more countries outside of Europe. But with that said, we have to discuss with CVB on what kind of studies, if they want local studies.
Okay. And just another question on the US market. Where are you in terms of getting a commercial partner? Are you in any discussions, for example?
So for the European market, we discussed with several of the global players, and it's very similar as players that are also present in the US market, and we have not. We're not in a position where we disclose our that kind of discussions, but in general, our strategy has, as we've done here in Europe, that we prefer to go with distribution partner agreements. I think that puts us in a better position in keeping more of the revenue to ourselves.
Okay, I think that was all the time we had. So I would like to thank you for participating, and as well thanks to all the watchers tuning in.
Thanks for listening.